Hi, thank you for joining me today. My name is Anna, and today's class is all about curiosity. So recently I've been playing around with this idea of being curious instead of being critical. And as a recovering perfectionist myself, I know how easy it is to come to the mat and criticize ourselves for what we think we're doing wrong or because we think that we're not where we need to be. So today I encourage you to approach this practice with a sense of curiosity about your body and the ways in which you hold it and move it and inhabit it. And notice the areas that feel really strong and stable, as well as these areas that you might feel like need a little bit more support or even feedback. And knowing that one is not necessarily better or worse than the other, but that they're just providing you with information that can help you feel more informed and embodied. So today we are going to be doing a lot of things like with one arm or one leg so that you can really start to notice differences side to side and say like, okay, this area maybe needs like a little bit more kind of tactile cueing or feedback, just so that we can start to get more of this information about our bodies and about our practice and ways that we can optimize and move more efficiently. So we are going to get started on our backs in a bridge pose. Or we won't be in bridge quite yet, but setting up for it. So having your feet on the floor and the knees are bent. And just take a moment here, maybe to soften or close your eyes. And just notice what you feel starting out. Noticing the areas that feel grounded, relaxed. And then notice anywhere that maybe feels a little bit rigid, or where you might be holding on to some tension. And once again, just knowing that those aren't good or bad things, just little bits of information. And so now setting up for your bridge, start to take your lower back ribs and push them down into the floor, lengthening your tailbone toward your heels, and then driving your glutes up just for a very low bridge. Keeping the back of your neck long. And then giving a little bit, excuse me, of feedback to your glutes. So you can just give like a little poke or a little prod into kind of the meat of these glute muscles. And just getting them to fire up a little bit more. And then you can keep your hands even on the sides of your hips or the sides of your pelvis here. And we're just going to alternate lifting your heels. So one at a time. Pushing down into the big toe as well as the big toe mound. And just notice here that we're trying to keep the pelvis level. So trying not to have a lot of side to side movement or dropping to one side, but still trying to hold the strength and the support of the musculature around the pelvis as we begin to move the heels. Now you can keep going with this, but we're going to lift your right heel up and either hold it there or really fire up this left leg. So squeeze this left glute. You can have your left hand on the outside of this left hip, and you can try lifting your right knee up over the hip. Perfect. So the front ribs are holding down. You can kind of push into that left outer hip with that left hand, just giving yourself a little bit more stability here. And let's hold it for a couple more breaths. And if you feel like you can't kind of sustain this, or you can't come up into this without maybe dropping into the hip or something, you can just put the toes down with the right heel lifted. Nice. And now let's stretch out the left wrist. So pulling the left fingers back with the right hand. Ooh, feeling a lot of really amazing stuff happening in that left hip. And then we'll set the right foot back down and then switch sides. So starting by lifting the left heel, pushing down into this right foot, into the fullness of that foot, and then right hand comes to the outer right hip and just resist against it to give yourself a little bit more stability here. And maybe you try lifting the left knee. Nice. And notice that these front ribs are staying held down. You can always give this right glute a little poke. My right side is always the one that I have to give like a little bit more of just that tactile cueing. It's because it got used to some bad movement patterns over the years. And then can take the right hand to reach it up like you're holding a tray, stretch out the wrist. Can always have that left foot down with just the heel lifting. So wherever you are, we want the movement to be just a little bit clearer. And then you can set that left foot down, let the arms come down, take a big full breath in, and exhale, let it go. Super slowly, we're gonna lower down one vertebra at a time. Great. So let's bring your hands interlaced behind your head. We're just gonna get into a little bit of ab work here. Take an inhale breath. Exhale, lift up off the shoulder blades. Now we're going to take the right knee, bring it up over the hip, and then hold the front ribs down. And so you don't want to see the muscles in your abs like lifting up toward the ceiling. You want to think about pulling them down toward the floor. Right foot lowers. Inhale, lower your head. Exhale, lift up off the shoulder blades. Hold that front body down as you lift the left knee up. Perfect. And then set that left foot down. Inhale to lower. Exhale, come up off the shoulder blades. Lift the right knee up over the hip. And now we're going to take the left hand to the inner right knee or thigh and then resist the two against each other and feel this kind of zipping up of the pubic bone and the holding down of your ribs. So it just kind of consolidates everything in. Right foot down, hand behind your head. Inhale to lower. Exhale, lift up. Left knee comes up over the hip. Right hand to the inner left knee or into the thigh. Resist the two into each other and then hold that front body down more. You got it. Hand behind your head and inhale to lower. Adding on here, exhale, lift up. Bring the right knee up over your hip and now turn 1 inch to the right from your sternum. Staying up off that right shoulder blade. Left hand can come to the right inner knee. Hold that front body down more. You can always have your left hand grabbing around the right side of the rib cage, hugging it in. Come back through center. Hand behind your head, foot down. Inhale to lower. Exhale, lift up. Left knee lifts over the hip. Turn 1 inch to the left from your sternum. Right hand comes to the left inner knee. Resist the two against each other. If you need to, the right hand can cup around the left side of the rib cage and pull it in. Come back through center. Hand behind your head. Foot lowers and release. Whew, amazing. So let's come around into a quadruped on your hands and knees. And we're gonna make our quadruped a little bit funky. So lower your right forearm down. So the elbow is right underneath your shoulder. And then your left palm lines up with the right elbow. And your left elbow, don't let it wing out to the side, but hug it in. So you're hugging the outer arm in. That's it. Lifting the front ribs into your body. watching your head, that we're not just letting it drop and that the chin is not jutting forward. Now reach your left leg back. You can always have your toes on the floor here. If it feels okay, you can hover the leg and then bend this left knee. That's it. So feel here, this right outer hip is hugging in. We're knitting the front ribs together. That left elbow is not winging out to the side. You're doing amazing. This is hard stuff, right? And it really works to expose any imbalances because we're like a little bit lopsided. And then we're gonna lower this left knee underneath the hip and switch sides. So left forearm lowers, the left elbow is underneath the shoulder, and the right palm lines up with the left elbow. So right elbow hugs in, knitting the front ribs together. We're gonna reach the right leg back. You can start with your toes on the floor. Try hovering the leg. Beautiful. And then bend the knee. Good. So pull your pubic bone and your lower front ribs towards each other. Keep hugging that right elbow in. And just feel that left outer hip not dropping out to the side. Let's take one more really big breath. I'm feeling it too. Woo. And then we'll lower that right knee underneath the hip. That's it. So setting up for dolphin, you can have the forearms parallel or interlace your hands. And we're going to tuck the toes under, lift the front body into the back, relax your neck, and then pike your hips up for dolphin. So just let your head go here. Lift in the hip creases. You can bend your knees a lot. And we're just going to start to alternate lifting one leg at a time. So you don't need to go very high at all. Just lifting up to hip height and no more. But notice here that we're trying to minimize any movement around the pelvis or the torso. Right? And you'll have a little bit of movement, but just feeling you can really firm the outer ribs in towards center, lifting the belly, lifting the ribs up. One more time. And let's lower down to the knees. And if it feels okay for you, you can sit back in a little child's pose. You give your head a little shake side to side. All right. And then when you're ready, we're going to come all the way up to stand at the front. All right. Feeling pretty warm already. Here we go, sun sal 1. Let's take an inhale, bring your arms forward and up. Exhale, hinge and forward fold, sitting back into your hip creases. Hands can land, blocks or floor. Step your right foot back, lower the knee, come onto the top of the foot. Inhale, arms lift up. So that right hip is directly over the knee, the right glute is firm. Plant your hands down. We're gonna step your left foot back into plank. Feel here, pubic bone, lower ribs, moving towards each other. And we're lifting the back of the head toward the ceiling. Downward facing dog, send the hips up and back. Inhale, right leg reaches up. Exhale, push into the hands, step that right foot as far forward as you can. Lower the left knee, come onto the top of the foot. Inhale, 90-90 lunge. Good. Feel that left hip over the knee, left glute is firm. Hands plant, floor or blocks. Slide the left foot up next to the right. Inhale, rise to stand. Exhale, hinge and fold. Front ribs stay held in, hips go back. Slide the left foot back, lower the knee but not the toes this time, and come up for that 90-90 lunge. So we're gonna do a similar thing that we did before, taking the left hand to the inside of the right thigh, and then resist the hand into the thigh into the hand. Feel the tailbone lengthening down, front ribs holding back. You can even have your right hand on your sacrum And it's just that invitation to pull that front body back. Let's take one more breath. Nice. Now have a little bit of a readiness here because we are going to windmill up and around the back for a three-legged down dog. So push into your feet, come up and around, back of the mat, left leg reaches up, three-legged down dog. Let's bend the right knee, or the left knee, excuse me, and start to circle in the hip. So holding the ribs steady, holding the pelvis level, switch directions as we just move the hip joint. So the ball in the socket of the hip joint. Nice. Now lower your left knee down, modified side plank, right leg reaches back, the foot can be on the floor. This left hand is directly under the shoulder. So we're going to tack this left shoulder blade onto your back ribs and then turn the ribs to the right arm can reach up. Always the option here, if you want a little more demand, to hover the back leg. Nice. But feel that this left shoulder is not dropping in. That's it. Keep holding that left shoulder blade onto your back body. Maybe you take your right hand to your front ribs and draw them back. That's it. One more breath here. Now look down at your left hand. We're going to bring the right knee up, step that foot in line with the left hand, and turn to face the long edge of the mat. And we're going to go into some side lunges. So you can have the hands on the floor. You could have your hands on your thighs. But what I want you to think about here is that the hip creases are moving back instead of the knees coming forward. So we're holding the ribs in, moving back into the hip crease. And you can imagine even that you're holding like a little cherry tomato in this hip space, and we're not squashing it as we move the hips back. So that would indicate, if we're kind of squashing that grape, indicate that we're letting the pelvis tip or tilt forward. So we're keeping that level pelvis as we flex at the hips. That's it. Now turn to face the front of the mat. We're going to stand on the left foot, lift the right knee up into flexion. Perfect. So left hand comes to the inner right thigh. Resist the two into each other and see if you can't fire up this left glute a little bit more. You can always give it a little poke. Stand tall on that left leg, pushing into that left big toe and the big toe mound. Now we're going to take this into a supported warrior 3 with the right hand on the left thigh. Ready? Here we go. We're going to hinge back into this left hip crease. So sit back into the hip, sit back into the hip. Right hand lands on the left thigh as the right leg reaches back. Amazing. It's good to wobble. It's good to shake, right? And we're just noticing these differences side to side. So hold these ribs in, sit back into that left hip. So good for this left hip. Such important work doing this one-legged balancing. Let's take one more breath. And then we're gonna lower the right foot down for warrior 2. So the right toes face the long edge of the mat. Bring your arms forward and back, inhale. Exhale, reach up and back, reverse warrior. Inhale, warrior 2. Exhale, warrior variation or side angle. Left forearm to the left thigh, right arm reaches up and over. Inhale, warrior 2. Exhale, reverse. Inhale, warrior 2. Exhale, side angle, warrior variation. Now we're gonna bring this down to quadruped, hands and knees at the front of the mat. And now here is the move that we started with. So we're gonna lower the right forearm down. The left hand lines up with the right elbow. Now take your left leg, reach it back, bend the knee. Hug this left elbow in. And now you can do maybe a couple pulses from that left glute without tilting the pelvis. And then lower your left knee down. We're gonna come up, we're gonna straighten the arms, take your right arm back. So just adding on a little bit here. And then feel as you take the arm back, the front of the shoulders staying lifted. Now lower the right forearm down again. Slow descent, that left tricep is controlling it. Left leg goes back, knee can be bent. Maybe do a few pulses there, try not to change anything else. Left knee comes underneath you. Super slowly straighten that left arm without letting the elbow wing out. Right arm goes back as you pull that right shoulder blade into the body. Ooh, one more time. Slow lower right forearm down. Left leg back. Couple pulses. Hug that left elbow in. Lower the left knee, keep that left elbow hugged in as you straighten the arm. Right arm reaches back, keeping the front of that shoulder lifted. Plant this right hand and let's pike our hips up for downward facing dog. Let's take a big breath in. Exhale, let it go. Nice. Take an inhale. Exhale, you can start to walk your feet forward toward your hands and we'll rise to stand. Let's do it again. Other side, inhale, arms lift up. Exhale, hinge and forward fold, sitting back into those hip creases. Step your left foot back. Lower the knee, but not the toes. And then we're gonna take, I feel like we already did this side. So let's have the left foot forward and the right knee down. So we're gonna take the right hand to the inside of the left thigh. There we go, that feels better. So right hand to the inside of the left thigh, holding the front ribs back. And now take your left hand back to your sacrum as a little reminder to hold the front body back into that left hand. Nice. Feel that right glute working. You can always give it a little poke here. Now, I want you to feel a sense of readiness in the feet, up into the legs, up into the core, because we're going to stand up and windmill to the back for a three-legged downward facing dog. So hands plant at the back, right leg reaches up. Can bend the knee and let's start to circle in this right hip. And switch directions, so just isolating this movement within the joint. Keeping everything else steady, that's it. Now bring your right knee underneath the hip, modified side plank, left leg reaches back. So your right hand is directly under your shoulder, and we're tacking this right shoulder blade onto the back ribs. Can reach this left arm up. Maybe you hover the left leg. So a lot of stability work for this bottom right hip. You can take your left hand to these front ribs as that reminder to hold them back. So we're not letting them project forward and arch in the back. That's it. Take one more breath. And then look down at your right hand. I'm gonna step that left foot up in line with it and turn to face the long edge of the mat, going into some side lunges. So maybe you have your hands on the floor or blocks, or hands on the thighs. You're just thinking about sitting the hips back, just holding that space within the joint, like you could hold a little cherry tomato. You can always just offer some of that tactile cueing of the fingers in the hip crease, moving back, especially if your knees have a habit of going forward instead of the hips going back. One more. Now we're going to turn to face the front of the mat, stepping down into the right foot, lifting your left knee into flexion. Perfect. So right hand comes to the left inner thigh, and lightly resist the hand into the thigh into the hand, and then use that to fire up this right glute even more. This is my more challenging side. Come on, Betty. Keeping the ribs hugging back, spine is nice and long. Standing super strong on that right leg. Now here's our move. We're going to take this into a supported warrior 3. So we're sitting back into the right hip crease. The left hand will land on the right thigh as the left leg reaches back. Amazing. And give yourself some grace here, right? Wobbling, shaking, falling out of it, it's all part of the process, and that's okay. It's not a bad thing. No one is expecting you to show up and be perfect, right? We're just gathering this information. Holding the ribs up, sitting into that right hip crease. All right, warrior 2, landing the left foot. Spin that heel down, warrior 2, arms reach forward and back. Inhale. Exhale, reach up and back. Inhale, warrior 2. Exhale, side angle, right forearm to the thigh, left arm reaches up and over. Inhale, warrior 2. Exhale, reverse. Inhale, warrior 2. Exhale, warrior variation, side angle. Now windmill down to the mat, coming into our quadruped. Here's our move. Left forearm lowers, elbow under the shoulder, right elbow or right palm in line with the left elbow, right elbow hugs in. Now we're going to take the right leg back, bend the knee, and maybe just do a couple little pulses here without arching in the back. So we're holding the front ribs and the pubic bone together as we pulse in that glute. Lower the right knee down. Now we're going to straighten the arms, so keep that right elbow hugging in. Left arm reaches back. So we're holding the front of that left shoulder up. Lower that left arm down as you slow the descent with that right tricep. Right leg reaches back, the knee can bend. Couple little pulses here without changing the pelvis. Lower the right knee, straighten that right arm. Nice little burner for that right tricep. Left arm reaches back. Hold that left shoulder blade into the body to lift the arm. One more time. Left forearm lowers, slowly lower. Right leg up. Few pulses. Lower the knee. Straighten the arms. Left arm reaches back as you pull that shoulder blade into the body to hover the arm. And then left hand comes down. Let's lift back and up, downward facing dog. Give your head a little shake, forward and back and side to side. Nice, easy, deep breaths. And then you can lower your knees. We'll come around to a seat and end up on our backs. And take a moment here just to settle in. Find any position that feels comfortable and easy. And taking a couple of moments to feel what you feel. And just to start to recognize what that internal voice is. Knowing that whatever that voice is telling you, and whatever your practice looked like today, that you still showed up to the mat, you stepped outside of your comfort zone. And you tried something new and played around with it in your body and your mind. And that is worthy of being celebrated. So when you're ready, start to bring in some gentle movements to your fingers and your toes. And then when you're ready, rolling over to your side. On your way back up to a comfortable seat. If it feels appropriate, place one hand on your belly and one hand over your heart. And just feel this ability that you have to be curious about your body, about your mind, about the stories that you tell yourself. And being able to replace that criticism with the curiosity, knowing that none of us are here to be perfect. None of us are here to show up and get things perfectly right the first time we do it. But we're here to be human. We're here to learn and grow and adapt in all of the ways. And so together, let's take one final breath in. Exhale and let it go. If your eyes are closed, gently blink them open. Yay, you did it. I am so proud of you. I know there were some kind of crazy, funky moves, and here we are. So keep coming back to this one if it felt a little weird to you, and I promise the more you do it, the more you put it in your body and your brain, the more kind of quickly and easily it will come. So if you enjoyed this practice, I would really appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up and subscribe, turn on your notifications so that you are not missing new classes. And I can't wait to see you again next time. Thanks.